Alright guys, welcome back to the channel today, and man, it really is nice to have Bleach back, you know? Just to get up and to be able to watch a new Bleach episode again, that's a hell of a feeling. And in this episode, we got the opening and ending songs today, and they're good. I'm not gonna say they're incredibly crazy or anything, but they're very good. They all have their own appeal. The opening with its nice color palette, as we see the aesthetic, as we just go through all the characters, it's very Bleachy, if you know what I mean. It's a nice little opening for us to start the 1,000-Year Blood War. And the ending, where we just see all the Zanpakuto just impaled into the ground after what appears to be a fierce fight, is very representative of what we're gonna see in this season, an all-out war. And speaking of all-out war, we actually started that today with the invasion of Hueco Mundo, which is kind of wild that the Stern Ridders just came in and just completely took over Hueco Mundo. Like, immediately, like that. But enough talking. Without further ado, let's get into it and talk about Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War Episode 2 today. And the first scene of our episode today really showcases that we're in a tight spot as we just see the cruelty of our enemies right here. As we continue where our last episode left off, with Bach just eviscerating Ludius's arm as he says, "There's no need to push yourself, Ludius. It must be hard to even sit with that wound. I permit you to speak while lying down. However, if you aren't going to sit, I suppose you don't need your legs." As him and Iberm are absolutely terrified of him. As we transition back to Ichigo's room and everyone's like, yo, he's kind of taking a long time, isn't he? Shouldn't we go help him? Uryu's just like, nah, I wouldn't worry about it. The enemy's spiritual pressure is gone, and I highly doubt Ichigo would lose to someone like him. As Orihime just laughs at him and tells him that, man, you and Ichigo have really become such good friends. Which, of course, he denies. But they have, though. Over the course of the series, they've really kind of bridged the gap between each other, and they really have become quite good friends. And it's here that Ichigo returns, but before they can really talk about what happened, the one Soul Reaper, who's voiced by Deku from My Hero Academia, by the way, the voice actor that plays him, little fun fact, gets a call from Soul Society addressing every single squad at once. As they say that 57 minutes ago, 7 unidentified individuals infiltrated the Squad 1 office, and 52 minutes ago, they left. 1 squad member was killed, but the head captain is safe. Around that time, one unidentified intruder showed up around Kokurio Gate, the location of Squad 1. All 116 squad members were killed in the 182-second battle that ensued, meaning that they killed the entire squad in barely over 3 minutes. Lieutenant Sasakabe was mortally wounded and died in the Squad 1 office soon after, which is a big deal because he's the person that's been serving under Yamamoto for ages. He's literally Yamamoto's second in command, and he was just killed right then and there immediately. Let that sink in. And it's here that we get a nice panning shot of all of them kind of processing this information a bit, because they have a general idea. And Uryu absolutely knows what's going on to an extent. He has an idea because he's looking at his Quincy locket. So he has a general idea of what's happening already, I believe. And so Ichigo decides to actually go out on patrol. And while he's doing that, we get the return of Nell in our episode today. But unfortunately, it's not a happy reunion, because she immediately has to tell Ichigo that Hueco Mundo has been taken over. As we transition back to Bach, as he's trying to get information from his subordinate. As he asks Ludius that, you told them 5 days, huh? And he says, yes, that's just enough time for Soul Society and us to prepare for battle. As Bach tells him, that's in the future. As he continues and says, 2 days ago, when you went out to scout the border intensity level, you stated that if we let things continue as is, the Soul Society and the world of the living would collapse in the near future due to an imbalance of souls. Isn't that right? Ludius Freegan, are you who stands before me right now a prophet? Answer me. As he says, no, of course not. And he's like, then why do you talk about the distant future? I only want to hear about the present. As he literally just blows his head off right then and there, showing that he means business. As he addresses Iburn and says, you are sufficient in keeping Ichigo Kurosaki at bay, but your job is done now. As he blows his head off too. As his other members there say, are you sure about that? I thought Arrancar soldiers were valuable assets. As he says, it matters not. We can just get another Arrancar. After all, Hueco Mundo is already my domain. As he pulls the curtain back and we see Halibel just chained up right there. Meaning that he has completely conquered Hueco Mundo. It is but one foundation stone towards invading the Soul Society. And as Ichigo's trying to ask Nell exactly what's going on in Hueco Mundo, we get the return of Pesci! Ah, man, I missed this guy, this goofy SOB. But it's here we transition to a very serious scene, as we get the burial of Sasakibi. And you can just tell right away that this is really impacting Yamamoto. And I think this scene is brilliant, how it's so quiet. And we just see a scene of Sasakiba just kneeling down in front of Yamamoto, as Yamamoto looks down on him. And I just love how quiet and serene it is. But you can tell that Yamamoto is beyond furious right here, as they light the pyres and burn his body. But it's here we transition back to Ichigo's room, as Pesci is explaining to them that after the deaths of Lord Baragon and Lord Stark, that Lady Halibel has been the ruler of Hueco Mundo, but this is when they attacked. As we just do a flashback to the battle, and it's just pure carnage. They really have Bach floating in the air, Reishi just surrounding his hands, just decimating everything. As we just see Halibel just smashed into the wall. And she looks terrible as she looks on to the enemies that have pushed them this far, then looks down at Nell and tells them to run. Which they reluctantly do, as we see as they're running away that Halibel gets captured by them. As Pesci begs Ichigo to help them. And Chad and Onihime don't even have to ask. They're like, we don't even have to ask. We're gonna go help them, right? As Ichigo says, after everything they've told us, we can't just ignore them. But it's here that Uryu actually says that, I can't go with you guys this time. I'm a Quincy. I can't help Hollows or Arrancars. As Ichigo tells him, I know. The purpose of Quincy's is to destroy Hollows, right? Even if you're not around, we'll manage. As Uryu tries to give him a warning, because I really do think Uryu knows who they are. It's been so long since I've read this, guys. I'm not really remembering, but I'm very certain Uryu knows who he is. Or who they're fighting. But before he can say, we get the reintroduction of Kisuke. And man, Kisuke looks good after 10 years, man. As he shows up and says, shall I arrange a trip to Hueco Mundo? As we transition to Ichigo and everyone traveling through the Garganta to get to Hueco Mundo. As Ichigo asks Kisuke, like, how'd you know this was happening right now? And he tells him that it's not hard to notice two Arrancars coming down from Hueco Mundo. Plus your battle earlier and the activity in the Soul Society were more than enough reasons to take caution. You've noticed it too, haven't you, Ichigo? Everything that's happening right now is all connected. As they all arrive in Hueco Mundo, we just see all the Hollows and Arrancars getting carried off like slaves. As Ichigo and the others hide their presence so that they don't alert them that they're there yet. As Kisuke says that they didn't come back this way because they know all the Hollows and Arrancar here are dead. And we just get this panning shot of the battlefield. Not even really a battlefield, a massacre, because everyone is literally dead. It's a bloodbath. As they point out this mysterious blue flame and say that's a flame of condensed reishi they use. Thanks to that, even the rocks and sand of Hueco Mundo that normally wouldn't burn are burned away. Faced with the powers of people we've never seen before, we lost all direction and means, and they were annihilated. As Ichigo says, oh, I see. Let's go save them all then. As Pochi is saying, what are you doing, man? Our friend's not in there. And Ichigo tells him, what difference is saving a few more Arrancars before that? As Ichigo flies off and Kisuke says, man, doesn't he realize those Arrancars he's trying to save were just his enemies not too long ago? And Pochia agrees, but Chad looks at him and says, you knew Ichigo would do something about this. You knew that he would get involved. That's why you were able to ask for his help without hesitation, as Chad and Orihime run off after Ichigo. As we transition to a pretty intense scene, actually, as all the Arrancars and Hollows are lined up in front of Quilgi Opie, Stern Rider J. Now, for the purposes of the video, I'm going to call him J, because it's way easier to pronounce than his name. As he addresses them and says, "Will you live or will you die? We'll be having a selection competition for the Hollows and Arrancar. I will be stabbing everyone starting from the right side." So if any of you are thinking that I don't want to die, or you're thinking that, oh, I want to join you, get down on your knees and beg like you are licking our shoes. Please do not waste this opportunity. As one person does come forward and say, "If I say I'll join you, will you spare mine?" But before he can, he just gets immediately impaled into the wall, very violently. As Jay says, "Of course not. Those of you who wish to apply must take an entrance exam. This selection event will decide who gets the opportunity to take the test. Those of you who don't understand my explanation will end up like this," as he just goes around just stabbing people brutally, just murdering them one after another. As we transition to his men saying, "Does the captain really have any intention of bringing back any Arrancar?" As his other subordinate says, "No, not at all. This is just a facade." And two prisoners actually use this time to break their chains with his spear and put a sword against his throat. And it gets revealed that it's Lolly and Melanie, who were a part of Aizen's group during his conquest. As Jay just immediately takes them out with little effort. As he says that His Majesty has ordered us to bring back any idiots with guts, and those two have passed. And as he's walking away, we just hear them getting the shit kicked out of them. As he says, to think that Aizen would appoint such weak Arrancars to his aid shows he's not that great. As we just see all his men getting eviscerated by Miller Rose, Sun, and Apache. The Tres Bestia, who are Halibel's basically hand-picked guard. And it's kind of wild to see them again. It's been forever. As we just see all of them wiping out every enemy there, and even bickering with each other, just like good old times. As they even attack Jay, and he says, "I have a suggestion. Surrender. If you surrender and work for His Majesty, you'll be able to work alongside your beloved Tyr Halibel. You will never get to experience greater happiness, now or ever." As they all completely refuse him, and he says, "I guess negotiations have fallen through. How extremely disappointing." As we transition to the captain's room, as we see every captain lined up, as Mayuri approaches them and says, "Now then, these Ryoka, who we tentatively refer to as the Rebel Army, the invasion by this Rebel Army who call themselves the Wandenreich, is connected to the mass disappearance of Hollows in the world of the living. The destruction of a large number of Hollows in the world of the living has caused a great imbalance of souls. This could possibly spell destruction for the world of the living and Soul Society." As Mayuri says that the Rebel Army is none other than the Quincy's. As we transition to Ichigo arriving to the scene, and we just see that Jay absolutely annihilated all of them. Just took them all out. As our episode ends with them staring each other down. And man, guys, like I said, it's so good to have Bleach back. It's been so long since I've read the 1,000-Year Blood War. It came out like, what, 6+ years ago? Probably longer. Like, it's been so long. I'm really trying to remember stuff. Like, I remember really hype moments and like really important moments. But moments like this, I've completely forgotten. So it's just like, oh, damn, that's right, that happened. So it's kind of fun to go back through it again. I'm tempted to read the manga again, honestly, but I kind of just want to re-experience it through the anime, you know what I mean? Which I feel like a lot of you probably feel. But how do you feel about this episode, guys? Like, we're really starting to get into the nitty-gritty now, and I kind of love it. So let me know what you think down below. I'd love to hear it. After 10 years, man, Bleach is coming back strong, and I love it. But until next time, guys, God, we got Chainsaw Man tomorrow. Crazy, crazy week. But until next time, guys, I hope you have a great day, week, month, and year. And until then, deuces, have a blessed day, and Don't end up like these three, just laying on the ground. Don't end up like that. I'll see you guys next time.